Pariprajakacarya Astitara Satashi Shimad Shila Bhai Chanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 9. The residents of Jambudvip offer prayers. This is a prayer from Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam. Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam. Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam. Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam dhyayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya dhyayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje bhajatarad-hoksaje Avishatam no matirapya hoituki Avishatam no matirapya hoituki Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam Dhyanyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Dhyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje bhajatarad-hoksaje Avishatam no matirapya hoituki Avishatam no matirapya hoituki. Please chant.
Svasyastu vivasya kala prasidatam
Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam
Dhyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Dhyanyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje
Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje
Avishatam no matirapya hoituki
Avishatam no matirapya hoituki.
Swastyastu vishvasya kala prasidatam
Svasyastu visvasya kalo prasidatam
Dhyayantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Dhyanyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya
Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje
Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje
Avishatam no matirapya hetuki
Avishatam no matirapya hoituki. Vaishnavis? Svasyastu vishvasya kalo prasidatam Dhyanyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje Avishatam no matirapya hoituki. Svasyastu vishvasya kalo prasidatam Dhyanyantu bhutani shivam mitodiya Manascha badram bhajatarad-hoksaje Avishatam no matirapya hoituki. Swasti, auspiciousness. Astu, let there be. Visvasya, of the entire universe. Kalo, the envious, almost everyone. Prasidatam, let them be pacified. Dhyayanta, let them consider. Bhutani, all the living entities. Shivam, auspiciousness. Mitaha, mutual. Dhya, by their intelligence. Mana, the mind. Cha, and. Bhadram, calmness. Bhajatad, let it experience. Adhoksaje, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the perception of mind, intelligence and senses. Aveshatam, let it be absorbed. Na, our. Mati. Intelligence. Api. Indeed. Ahoitiki. Without any motive. Translation. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga, for by accepting devotional service they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. Please repeat. May there be good fortune throughout the universe. And may all envious persons be pacified. May all living entities become calm by practicing bhakti yoga. For by accepting devotional service, they will think of each other's welfare. Therefore, let us all engage in the service of the Supreme Transcendence, Lord Sri Krishna, and always remain absorbed in thought of Him. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The following verse describes a Vaishnava. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Just like a desire tree, a Vaishnava can fulfill all the desires of anyone who takes shelter of his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj is a typical Vaishnava. He prays not for himself, but for all living entities, the gentle, the envious, and the mischievous. He always thought of the welfare of mischievous persons like his father, Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj did not ask for anything for himself. Rather, he prayed for the Lord to excuse his demoniac father. This is the attitude of a Vaishnava who always thinks of the welfare of the entire universe. Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavat Dharma are meant for persons who are completely free from envy. Parama nirmatsaranam. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays in this verse, Kalau prasidatam. May all the envious persons be pacified. The material world is full of envious persons, but if one frees himself of envy, he becomes liberal in his social dealings and can think of others' welfare. Anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness and engages himself completely in the service of the Lord cleanses his mind of all envy. Manascha badram bhajatad adhoksade. Therefore, we should pray to Lord Nrsingadev to sit in our hearts. We should pray, Bahir Nrsimha, Hridaye Nrsimha. Let Lord Nrsingadev sit in the core of my heart, killing all my bad propensities. Let my mind become clean, so that I may peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a very fine purport in this regard. Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, very enthusiastic. We should learn to be longing to see Krishna. We should be so enthusiastic, right? Whenever one offers a prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one always requests some benediction from Him. Even pure Niskama devotees pray for some benediction, as instructed by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Sikshastakam. Ayi nanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya tava parapankaja stitaduli sadrisham vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. In another prayer, Lord Chaitanya says, Mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhakti rahaitaki tvai Life after life, kindly let me have unalloyed love and devotion at your Lordship's lotus feet. When Prahlad Maharaj chants Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya, which is the previous verse in this Bhagavatam, he prays for a benediction from the Lord. But because he is also an exalted Vaishnava, he wants nothing for his personal sense gratification. The first desire expressed in his prayer is Swasyastu Visvasya. Let there be good fortune throughout the entire universe. Prahlad Maharaj is thus requested the Lord to be merciful to everyone, including his father, a most envious person. According to Chanakya Pandit, there are two kinds of envious living entities. One is a snake, and the other is a man like Hiranyakashipu, who is by nature envious of everyone, even of his father or son. Hiranyakashipu was envious of his little son Prahlad, but Prahlad Maharaj asked a benediction for the benefit of his father. Hiranyakashipu was very envious of devotees, but Prahlad wished that his father and other demons like him would give up their envious nature by the grace of the Lord and stop harassing the devotees. Kala prasidatam. The difficulty is that the kala, the envious living entity, is rarely pacified. One kind of kala, the snake, can be pacified simply by mantras or by the action of a particular herb. Mantra, saudi, vasa, sarpa, kala, kena, nivrityate. An envious person, however, cannot be pacified by any means. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that all envious persons may undergo a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. If the Krishna consciousness movement spreads all over the world, and if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays, Shivam mito diya. In material activities, everyone is envious of others, but in Krishna consciousness, no one is envious of anyone else. Everyone thinks of the welfare of others. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj prays that everyone's mind may become gentle by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna, bhajatad adhoksaje. As indicated elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayo, and as advised by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 1865, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakta. One should constantly think of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one's mind will certainly be cleansed. Chaita Darpana Marjanam. Materialists always think of sense gratification, but Prahlad Maharaj prays that the Lord's mercy will change their minds and they will stop thinking of sense gratification. If they think of Krishna always, everything will be all right. Some people argue that if everyone thought of Krishna in that way, the whole universe would be vacated because everyone would go back to home, back to Godhead. However, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this is impossible because the living entities are innumerable. If one set of living entities is actually delivered by the Krishna consciousness movement, another set will fill the entire universe. Om Adhyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhainam Dadati Svapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all so much. Very grateful to be invited to this speak to you today here in the most sacred Radhadesh community, such a holy place. Thank you so much. So I wanted to mention, before giving thoughts on this verse, I wanted to mention my experience of the last few days traveling here, being in the airport for about 2.5 days, sleeping in the airport one night, and then another night there was a hotel. But I was thinking, devotees used to walk to the holy places, right? I was just reading the third canto, the talk of Vidura, and Prabhupada calls it the Pilgrim's Progress. And I was thinking how, devotees used to spend months walking to a holy place. And I was feeling a bit bad being delayed in the airport, missing the Shinga Chaturdashi, maybe feeling a bit sorry for myself. And I started thinking, well, at least no one's trying to boil me in oil or trample me under the feet of elephants. So, that's what Prahlad Maharaj tolerated. But so, as I was thinking that, there was this African-American lady sitting next to me, and I have to tell you about her. I was hearing her, she was singing hymns under her breath. She's kind of a big lady, African-American, black lady, and she's singing under her breath, and I heard her, and I started talking to her, and it ends up that she's a minister. She's a pastor in a church, and her name is Phyllis, and she survived 3 cancers, 2 months in intensive care with COVID. She was just on the edge of death with COVID. And she was actually kind of reminding me of Prahlad Maharaj. So she said she wrote 10 plays that she produces in the church. And she wrote one play called Goliath Will Not Stand. Any of you, or many of you, are familiar with the story of David and Goliath from the biblical literature? So her play was called Goliath Will Not Stand. So if you know this story, David was small, Goliath was a giant, and David was really, overpowered by the strength of Goliath, and nothing compared to Goliath, and all odds were against David. But he had his faith in God, and he took up his weapons. He had a slingshot. Remember that? He had a slingshot, which is like a really insignificant, useless weapon. He had a shield, and he had his faith, and he had his slingshot. And somehow he conquered this insurmountable monster, Goliath. So she was telling me about how her cancers were like monstrous Goliaths, and how everything we face, every challenge we face in our life is like a Goliath, and how every Goliath will fall if we have our faith in God. It was so amazing. And how, but she was saying we have to take up our weapons. So I was thinking, this lady understands Bhagavad Gita, I think, better than most of us. You can't just go to sleep and expect that Krishna is going to do everything. You have to take up your weapons, even if it's just a slingshot, and your shield, and your faith is the ultimate weapon. That was just so moved by her. So I was thinking, I'm sure she's never heard of Bhagavad Gita, but she probably understands it better than us, many of us, at least me. So this verse, this beautiful prayer of Prahlad Maharaj, to me this verse is so important because it's like a look into the heart of Prahlad Maharaj. He is, he's opening his heart to show what I was thinking is compassion without borders. Compassion without, it's a good name for an NGO, don't you think? Yeah. Compassion without borders. And he's not praying for himself, but he's praying for the gentle and the envious and the mischief mongers like his father. Let there be all auspiciousness for everyone, for all living beings. Let everyone in the universe think of the welfare of everyone. So it's an inclusive, blessing consciousness of Prahlad Maharaj. Like just unalloyed, pure blessing consciousness. So Yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions a bit of the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Parama Nirmatsaranam Satam. So that verse begins with Dharmak Prochchita Kaitravo the Parama Nirmatsaranam Satam. So it says, Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those people who are not envious, the Satam. The devotees are called Satam because they're fixed in Sat, they're fixed in truth, and they're not envious. So Prahlad is praying that let all people become pacified. And so, yeah, what's the path to that auspiciousness, that the path of the sadhus like Prahlad Maharaj? He's praying to Lord Nrsimhadev to sit in our hearts, kill the Hiranyakashipu like propensities, smash the strong pillar of our pride. You know, think of it, you know, Lord Nrsimhadev came and smashed this pillar, which is, it's like my pride, you know, he smashed this fortress, this pillar that's holding up this fortress of my false domination of ego in this world, right? Let my mind become clean so I can peacefully worship the Lord and bring peace to the entire world. So it looks like such an impossible order, doesn't it? It's impossible, right? How could it even, how can we purify our own hearts? What to speak of other envious people? So it looks impossible, but how much do we want it, right? And at what price? So the prayer for peace, it's not just for myself, but peace to heal the suffering world, to be an instrument of peace, an instrument of the Lord's divine compassion to help him heal a suffering world, right? And I love that in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, asking for a benediction, saying any benediction, any prayer for a benediction, every prayer has a request within it. So Prahlad Maharaj's prayer is that envious persons will have a change of heart and think of the welfare of others. So he's like, Prabhupada used to sign his letters, your ever well-wisher. So just imagine to be a well-wisher of every living being like that. So I was thinking about envy, jealousy, and how are they different, right? Envy, jealousy. Shakespeare called jealousy a green-eyed monster in Othello, right? The green-eyed monster of jealousy. So I looked them up because it's a little confusing. Envy, jealousy, are they synonymous? But they kind of have distinct meanings, but they're a little bit synonymous also. So envy is the painful feeling of wanting what someone else has, like attributes or possessions. If you're jealous, you feel threatened, protective, or fearful of losing your position or your situation to someone else. So here's something from a conversation with Prabhupada. This devotee, Nalini Kanta, is asking, he says, Prabhupada, I've been reading a lot in the different books about envy, and you say that people kill cows out of envy. I was wondering if you could give a definition of what envy is. I don't understand why they would kill animals out of envy. And Prabhupada says, envy means the cow has got right to live. He does not allow the cow to live. That is envy. You cannot understand this? Suppose you are walking. You have got a right to walk. I have got. And if I kill you, you cannot walk. That is envious. Everyone has got right to live, just like the camel. God has given their food. They are accustomed to eat these thorny twigs. So Krishna has given that. Let them eat and live. Why should you interfere with his living condition? Do not interfere with others' right. Why should you do that? And then here's Srila Prabhupada's thoughts on jealousy. Prabhupada speaking with Dr. Arnold Toynbee, an eminent scholar. Prabhupada says, this material world is based on jealousy, and the spiritual world is based on friendship. That is the difference. So these materialistic persons, United Nations, League of Nations, they are trying to unite, but they at heart, there is jealousy. So they can never become united. This is only bogus farce. Dr. Toynbee says, yes, yes. Prabhupada says, what do you think? Dr. Toynbee, yes. Prabhupada. They cannot be united because at heart there is jealousy. They go to the United Nations Assembly. So one man is speaking with jealousy for the other, and the other man is speaking, and Prabhupada laughs, with jealousy. So how can they be united? It is not possible. Dr. Toynbee says, yes, yes, no. Prabhupada. Therefore, they should adopt this Krishna consciousness platform. Parama nirmatsaranam satam vastava vastu vedya matra. This is again Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second verse. So it is a very scientific movement. I would like that persons like you should take some little active part to push on this movement. Right? So, yeah, so this verse that Prabhupada's again quoting here, Srimad Bhagavatam is, the intention of Srimad Bhagavatam is to kick out cheating religion out of our hearts so that we can become satam, parama nirmatsaranam satam, that our minds will become gentle, non-envious, by being fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's a mystical quality, isn't it? That here's Prahlad Maharaj praying for the welfare of others. But I find it very mystical that by reaching out to help others, we also begin to become healed. You know, when I'm kind of myopic, thinking of my own self and my own problems, my consciousness is not expanded enough to be able to reach out and to help others. So this vision of a devotee is very, very beautiful, that a devotee has no enemy. Ajata shatru, right? That a devotee doesn't perceive anyone else as an enemy, but prays for the benefit of and upliftment of those who might think that they are his or her enemy. It's a very interesting and beautiful thing that the Lord appears partial. Like this whole story of Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord is appearing to bless his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. It's the Lord appearing out of a stone pillar to bless his devotee. And why is he so partial to his devotees? Because his devotees, like Prahlad Maharaj, are so impartial, right? So he's partial to those who are impartial. Those who are compassionate, he's partial to them. Devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, who take such great risks to so selflessly share their love. Just like Narada Muni, right? Just think of Narada Muni with his veena. He's walking along the forest path, and he walks off the path to reach out to Magrari the hunter. Isn't that interesting? He could have just gone on his way. But why did he walk off the path to reach out to Magrari the hunter? So I think it's a great lesson for us if we think of that. I can also reach out to help others, go out of my way, step off my own path to extend myself. We're all so busy, right? In ISKCON, we have so many services. Everybody's rushing around doing so many services. But can we also take some time for some radical noticing? You know, somebody sitting alone in the temple or outside the temple or on the street or anywhere, looking depressed or alone, someone visiting the temple, no one takes time to greet them. That's the most heartbreaking thing, isn't it? No one takes time sometimes to make them feel that this is their home. Srila Prabhupada once said that everyone who visits one of our temples is Krishna's personal special guest. And the most heartbreaking thing is when you say to someone, oh, you've been here before. Yeah, I was here 6 years ago, but nobody talked to me, so, you know, I just didn't come back. So sometimes our very personalist philosophy plays out in very impersonal ways, with a lack of noticing, a lack of caring. I want to share with you this beautiful story. I was at the temple in Pune, and this devotee Radhe Shyam is the temple president there. He's a brilliant man. So he brought a newspaper to Mangalarti, and after Mangalarti he was showing this newspaper that this IIT, what they call in India, IIT topper, somebody at the top of his class in the top universities in India, the IIT, he took his own life. And he left a note that I just didn't see any reason to live. There was no purpose to life, and so he took his life. And it was so heartbreaking, but what was so striking, and the reason I mention this is because Radhadesh is pointing to this newspaper, and he says, this is our fault. This is our fault because we didn't reach this person in time to give him hope that there is hope on the path of bhakti yoga. There is hope in the love of Krishna. So his suicide is our fault. I was so struck by that. Yeah. So Prahlad Maharaj, he has this blessing vision for the world that the envious people become pacified and reconciled. And Srila Prabhupada also had a vision helping us to see the possibility of becoming something more than anything we could ever have imagined ourselves being, right? There's a beautiful story at Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. Devotees were coming up and saying so many beautiful words to Srila Prabhupada. You are Jagat Guru, you are so many prayers, so many important words. And there was one devotee who was sitting right at the base of Prabhupada's Vyasa-san, and he was hearing Prabhupada say under his breath after each one spoke, he was hearing Prabhupada say, you become, now you become. So they're saying, oh, you're this and that, you're the Jagat Guru, you're the most merciful. You become. Whatever they were saying to him, Prabhupada was like boomeranging it back to that person, which is so beautiful, And it reminds me of this saying, there's an Orthodox saint, Gregory the Great. He said, great people usually have had somebody around them who expects them to be better than they themselves have any intention of being. Here's something Prabhupada's Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says. He says, a real guru does not make disciples. He makes them into gurus by turning persons envious of Krishna into his devotees. Nice, huh? So this whole movement of the Krishna consciousness movement, it's heart transformation, it's world transformation through heart transformation. Radical noticing, radical caring outside of myself and my own little concerns of the day, stepping off my own path to care like Narada Muni. Why did Narada Muni care to take Prahlad Maharaj's pregnant mother to his ashram to instruct her and Prahlad in her womb? Why did he step off the path to intervene in the life of Mrigauri the hunter? Why did Srila Prabhupada break the Vedic prohibition that a sannyasi should never cross the ocean? Why did he do that? Radical noticing, right? I always felt that Srila Prabhupada could feel our suffering and, just our lost questioning, why? I just always felt that he could feel it across the ocean. So compassion, karuna means anukampa. Anukampa means trembling with a person. Beautiful definition, to tremble with, alongside a suffering person. Here's something nice from Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He says, we do not just want to become members of a powerful institution, but we want to experience the theology in such a way that our lives preach our message. We want people to feel amazed by our culture of devotion. If the participants are wholesome, the family strong, and their physical and psychological needs are met, this devotional culture will certainly amaze people. Most important, they should see how the spiritual care offered to those in the immediate environment extends outwards. We must first influence our own communities in order to influence the society. If we cannot first help ourselves, how will we execute the mission of these great acharyas who want us to assist them in global transformation? So, wrapping this up, I wanted to say that sometimes it's said that a devotee has 4 qualities. To look back, like Kunti Devi, thanking Krishna, remembering all the times Krishna saved her. She's saying, let those difficulties come again and again, because when they come, I'm seeing you, my Lord. Looking back in gratitude. Then to look ahead, like Prahlad Maharaj, trusting Krishna, even if he's thrown off a cliff. Trusting Krishna, poisoned, tortured, and afterwards no malice. Just bless my ignorant father, my Lord. And then to look within, finding Krishna like Dhruva Maharaj, finding a precious jewel after searching out broken glass. And then to look around, how to serve Krishna like Srila Prabhupada, turning those envious people who are envious of Krishna into sadhus. So I just want to close with something that I find, that I personally cherish in my life. So I wanted to say that in the US, after 9/11, there were these tragic attacks on the Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and so many people died. And there was a memorial service afterwards at the Washington National Cathedral, which is considered the nation's house of worship. It's considered to be a non-denominational cathedral. And they invited different speakers from different religious traditions to speak about peace. And our dear godbrother, Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, spoke on this verse of Prahlad Maharaj, but he gave his own very broad and relatable translation that I want to share with you. And it really deeply resonated with the people who heard him. And so much so that I've been to that cathedral many times afterwards, and I've heard many speakers speak his translation of this verse without giving him credit or mentioning where it came from. So listen to his beautiful, broad translation. He says, Prahlad Maharaj says, "May the entire universe be blessed with peace and good hope. May everyone driven by envy and enmity become pacified and reconciled. May all living beings develop abiding concern for the welfare of others. May our own hearts and minds be filled with purity and serenity." And here is how we go about it. May all these blessings flow naturally from this supreme benediction. May our attention become spontaneously absorbed in the rapture of love unto the transcendent Lord. So, beautiful, huh? So thank you so much. Beautiful, uplifting message of Prahlad Maharaj. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts, any reflections, any takeaways? What was important for you? Any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Weren't you involved in arranging that Ravindra Prabhu would speak on behalf of the Hindu community there?
I had something to do with it. Really, they were looking for a brown person. And they were, really disappointed that we had this white person come up to the podium. But it was so beautiful. It was so moving. And so moving to hear it repeated again and again in that cathedral. So, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
First of all, thank you very much for the beautiful class.
Stand up maybe and address us all.
Thank you very much for the beautiful class and for having chosen this verse, because we start the day with glorifying Prahlad Maharaj and giving this realization. And we'll end the day with an animation about Prahlad Maharaj's challenges and his faith. It's a 2-hour and 50-minute animation, the biggest animation produced in India. We had the honor to see it fully. We're the first people to see it in a private screening tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see in visual all the things that happened to Prahlad.
Beautiful. And then we have the play of Lord Ram, Yeah, these, I was telling the actors yesterday when you arrived, that Prabhupada said once, these plays are better than my books. Right? So, yes.
Weren't you present when Srila Prabhupada asked that every one of his disciples should become guru?
Yeah.
And you asked?
Yeah.
What about the girls?
He said that also in, Sitala also says that he said that when she was in the room looking at each one of them, but yeah, he said, well, in that case with Sitala, he said, I want each one of you to become guru, looking at each one of them in their eyes. In this situation where I was in New York, Srila Prabhupada was looking at each one of us saying, I want each one of you to open a temple somewhere. And I was only 16 years old, quite foolish, impetuous. I still am. You can ask my husband. But I'm trying to get better. But at the time, when he said that, I was so shocked. I said, "Even the girls, Swamiji?" And he was laughing, and he said, "Yes, there is no difference between the boys and the girls when you are teaching Krishna consciousness. There is no difference." And then he started to speak about Janavidevi and how she was leading the whole Sankirtan movement. Beautiful. But he was laughing. Yes. Hey, Mangi Gopi.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your wonderful class and
Thank
your
you.
soft heart, your tendency to glorify devotees. I remember you gave, like last time I attended your class on this verse was in Mayapur 2018, it's called Leadership Sangha, and you glorified Krishna Nandini at that time. That's so amazing. I still remember that story. Now you glorify this wonderful lady from Christian tradition. And I'm just wondering how you are a nectar seeker and always find, that your soft heart connected to Krishna can always see the opportunity to serve and, attract these wonderful people, Vaishnava, like devotees, because she is Krishna lover and she actually Jesus lover. She shared this experience with you. Also, you addressed this a little bit sad story in Pune that with Radhadesh, and I was just remembering one exchange with one Christian theologian and priest. He said nowadays religions, unfortunately, they don't have a capacity or mechanism to address this issue that we have. Everybody seeks and search for God. Modern people also do that. But the institutions, religious institutions, are not capable to reply of their needs and necessities for God. And he said, we are doing these things and that things that may be favorable, but he said, I call it pious agnosticism, because there is no God in it. And he said, there is no God in it. And power of the prayer is still the most powerful weapon that we have. And you address these things that Prahlad Maharaj did. So my question is, how can we expose to such a kind of prayer of such an exalted Vaishnavas in order to develop this spiritual culture, to have it for ourselves and to give it to others?
Thank you for the amazing realization from your beautiful, compassionate heart. Isn't it beautiful that she's thinking every problem that could possibly come across my path in my life is a Goliath. And my faith, take up my weapons and my faith, and the Goliath will not stand. It's so amazing. And I'm hearing her, but I'm thinking, because I read this Russian, any of you read this book, The Way of a Pilgrim, by this Russian, So he's talking about incessant prayer in that book, that he was looking for how can we find incessant prayer. So I was listening to this lady singing this hymn under her breath, and I'm thinking, this is incessant prayer. She's doing it, she's living it, And so what a great guru she is. But I was also reminded when you were talking about pious agnosticism that I heard this from Radhika Raman Prabhu. He was saying that one scholar said that religion has the capacity to re-enchant that the problem with the world is that the world has become disenchanted, and religion has the capacity to re-enchant the world. But I would say even further, bhakti has the capacity to re-enchant the world. So it's just like we're just sitting on a treasure. Here we are in this beautiful Radhadesh. Why are there only 50 people here, The whole Belgium should be in this room. But so bhakti has the capacity to re-enchant the world. So what misers we are if we're not sharing it without borders, without, compassion without borders. Yeah. And something else? Yes, Prabhu.
You said there's a word there, anupukam or something.
Anukampam.
Anukampam. Suffering with someone.
Yeah, it's a one of in Sanskrit there's so many words for different things, for love, for compassion. So it's one of the words for compassion, but it means to tremble with someone. So it's a very, very beautiful thing. to not be standing in front of them, pointing, shaking my finger at them, you should do this or this or this, and not standing behind them, wringing my hands like, oh, you poor thing, God bless you, but standing beside them as they are walking through the wilderness of their grief, their suffering, and trembling with them. So I think that's the path of the sadhus. That's the path of authentic compassion. It's not prescriptive, but it's to tremble along with someone. What else? Anyone else have any reflections or thoughts or questions or anything? Yes, Prabhu.
We sing this every morning, Romancha Kampa through Karanga Bajo. In Mangalati we sing it. So Kampa is the ecstatic shaking. It can also mean the shaking out of shock or suffering. So if somebody is suffering so much that he starts to shake, you can tend to hammer him on the head with philosophy, which is not always the right tactic. It's to put your arm around the shoulder of that person. And Anukampa is to cry together with that person, and then when both your compassionate heart and their heart in agony, when they unite with this shaking, then we can gradually, kindly give a glimpse of philosophy that might help them afterwards, after the emotions settle down.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's called being a wounded healer. Being a wounded healer, not that I'm so healed and I'm talking down to you and I know everything. So we have to drop down from the head space to the heart space. If we want to really touch people's hearts, we have to get out of the head space and drop down to the head space, heart space. Yeah. Yes, Nikund?
You mentioned that Narada Muni stepped off the path to save Mugrari. But by saving Mugrari, he also saved all these half-killed animals that
Yeah.
were suffering. So sometimes to save one person, it resonates.
Yeah.
Because of these people that are animals.
Beautiful. Thank you. By saving one person, there can be a domino effect on so many people. So many living beings can be saved and healed. Yeah, beautiful. What was the story I was hearing yesterday from Chitra Rukmini? So she was saying she had her son and another boy at the beach, at her father's little house on the beach somewhere in Italy. And when the boys were out playing and they saw a man who was fishing, and the older boy, being trained in Krishna consciousness, he was older than her son. I think maybe he was about 7 or something like that. But he went to the fisherman and he said, "Don't do this. They're not happy. Don't you see they're happy in the water? Why are you doing this?" And he was, he had such an open, childlike, pleading heart that he really touched the heart of this fisherman. And she said she went back to that place sometime later and met that fisherman some years later. And he told her that boy, this is amazing, that boy touched his heart so much, he became a vegetarian. So you see what happens when we act from the heart space. Like Prahlad Maharaj, the little child, So we have to go to that place of simplicity, sincerity. These are the symptoms of knowledge, right? Amanikvam, madambitvam. Go to the place of simplicity, humility, pridelessness. Yeah, anything else? Thank you, Prabhu. Oh, hi. Oh, good to see you.
Just to add about Anukampa, thank you for bringing the meaning. That's also a word used for many times in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, also Disham, Evanukampartam, meaning mercy. And Prabhupada says special mercy from Krishna. So Krishna is also having that mood for the devotees, especially.
Wow. Beautiful.
Trembling along.
Beautiful. Yes, Prabhu.
So what advice do you give our society? This is the communications conference. We're here in Radhadesh. It's one of the most successful communities in Europe. There clearly is this tendency within our society, do more, do bigger, double book distribution, by hook or by crook, just get people in the door, they'll get purified.
Sika points, right? Remember that? Sika points.
Yeah, Sika points. And, you know, recent phenomena, it's, you know, push people, push devotees, but then you're talking about compassion, individual compassion, but we, you know, we have to make the world Vedic. You know, it's not about talking to some black African minister who's singing some obscure prayers. I mean, on the one hand, it's beautiful, she's God conscious, and you're seeing them like that. There are people in our movement who would say that's total sentiment. I mean, it's not Vaishnava. She's probably not a vegetarian. But maybe she drinks wine at the church service. You know, it's just so. How do you advise us to find that balance?
I would say that if we want to push someone, we have to push ourselves, because the only way we can create a change is if we create a change in our own hearts. You know, if I'm just telling you, then it's just not effective.
Well, you can tell me because we're married.
I heard this story I want to share. There's a Quaker peacemaker, and he's written many books. His name is Parker Palmer. And beautiful man, his books are beautiful. And he went into a personal depression for a long time. And his friends were coming up to him and saying, come on, you're a great teacher and you're a healer and you're gonna snap out of it, don't worry, you know. And nobody was helping him. Anything anyone was saying was just not helping him. And he had this one friend who was showing up on Fridays to just rub his back without any words, you know, without any words, just showing up. So I think so often we have so many words, but just showing up in the heart space. Another story I want to share, if there's time, if I'm not going over it, it's all right. So there was a tragic something that happened at Bhaktivedanta Manor many years ago. A little girl was going down the slide, and she had her little purse. And as she went down the slide, the purse got caught on the side and choked her. And she died. And very tragic story. And devotees were coming to her parents, to her father, and trying to help them in their grief. And, you know, preaching Bhagavad Gita, remember, you know, she's not this body, we're not this body, and everything is temporary, and don't mourn for what is not worthy of grief. Repeating Bhagavad Gita, right? We can repeat it like a parrot, you know. But the father said to someone later that he felt that the devotees were not coming for him, but they were coming to fulfill their own need to preach. They weren't really coming for him, but for themselves. So how sensitive we have to be. You know, there's so much suffering in this world. You know, you talk to anyone and devotees open their heart, how much trauma devotees are carrying. What to speak of people who've never heard of bhakti. So it behooves us to open our hearts and show up in the heart space. Yeah. And to notice, radical noticing. Somebody's sitting in a corner crying, you know. That person may be contemplating suicide, you know. Sometimes we can just change the trajectory of someone's entire life just by noticing, you know, what's in your heart, what are you holding, what's going on.
I want to share a lovely experience I had at one of our temples at ISKCON, Birmingham. At one of our temples, an experience I had at one of our temples at ISKCON, Birmingham. Again, very similar to what you say, where we need to focus on devotee care. And I remember when every time we go to the temple at ISKCON Birmingham, it's a very small temple. We have big temples, you can't really cater for that. Very small temple. You go there, you ring the doorbell, and the temple president comes to answer and welcomes you. And he doesn't take us for granted like we in the movement for a long time. No. This is where you keep your shoes. And he'll take us to meet Srila Prabhupada. And he'll announce our name and he'll say, so-and-so has come from London to meet you, like that.
How beautiful.
Such an amazing experience. And when you finish, he'll take you to meet the deity. sometimes you go to a temple, you don't know the names of the deities.
Mhm.
You mention the name of the deities, like that, give you that space of time to have your moment with the deities. And then it will be prasadam. He'll be interested. Did you take your prasadam? Are you okay? Are you comfortable?
Beautiful.
You're going home. How are you going home? By train? Do you need a lift to the station?
What an
That was
example.
Such an amazing
What an
experience.
example. What a beautiful story. It's so heartwarming to hear those kinds of stories. But even in a big temple, you know, we're each individuals, right? We're not, you know, robots going about our services. We have to notice, you know, someone may be really suffering very much if we don't notice, yeah? Huh?
We have to
Stop. All right, thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
What time do we start?
Now it's breakfast, and at 10 o'clock sharp, please come to the guest house conference room. It starts 10 o'clock sharp. Please be there.
So please, the breakfast prasadam is at the back of the tent, in the tent.